Hey everybody, Nerd Transformed here again, and today I'm reviewing the Power of the Prime's Voyager class Grimlock. Now I did order this from Amazon.com. I did not get lucky enough to find this in stores, although Amazon when I bought it did have it for only $25, which is pretty good considering he seems to bump around between 40 and 50 a lot. So I think I got pretty lucky. But like most Power of the Prime figures, he does come with a card that's randomized. You can see Grimlock here. And my Grimlock in particular is the Alchemist Grimlock, which I kind of like because it gives it that gray outlook that kind of matches his color scheme. And that does mean he enhances the power in allies circuits, which I guess kind of makes sense since he is a combiner, or this Grimlock in particular is a combiner. So yeah, that is kind of the gimmick with Power of the Primes. Are kind of bringing all the other gimmicks together from the previous line. So the Dinobots are now combiners for this series. But, you know, this is Grimlock in his dinosaur mode, and he does form the very G1 style T-Rex mode with the gray and the gold and a little hints of red all over the place. The color scheme is based a lot more on the toy designs, much like with Slash of the G1 toys, as Grimlock does have red eyes in both modes instead of blue. Instead of the yellow he has in the cartoon, he does have this gold, clear, plasticky look, which is done by, which I wish, go ahead and show off a piece of transformation just to show. It is clear plastic that has been painted gold on the inside, as you can see. So it kind of does give this trick of a layered look despite only being one layer of plastic. But it's a pretty cool trick, and it does work very well. It does give him a very kind of circuitry under the board kind of look. And it does look very nice. Now, it does, of course, come with some things besides the card. He does come with, like all the Voyagers being Power of the Primes, he does come with the Combiner feet. Which I guess makes sense here, since it does give him a lot more of a solid foundation than the Combiner Wars feet did. And they do work very well for Grimlock because they have these like three-toed claws. The only thing I don't really like is they do have this big old gap in them. And the hands from two of the leg parts, whoever forms the legs for the Dinobots, will come back here and combine into the back to make bigger feet. So that's pretty nice. It'll give him very nice big feet for him to work. And of course it does actually have ratcheted pegs for the ankles. You really can't store them in this mode. Unfortunately, there's nothing like you can peg him into the bottom of his dino feet to give him bigger feet, which would have been pretty cool. The only thing you can really do is peg him like that, and to be honest, that looks pretty dumb. But you do still have these if you want to use them for whatever purpose you can think of. The only other thing he comes with is the Enigma of Combination, as they're calling it, which is basically a cheapo Titan Master. And so if I pull in another Titan Master like Trigger Happy's here, you can see the Enigma is the exact same size and shape as the Titan Master, just hollowed out and does not transform. It's just a hollow little shell, which kind of makes it feel like a knockoff in some ways. But this has been dubbed the Dinobot Enigma if you're curious. And these Enigmas do still have the peg to fit in like a Headmaster. Even though it doesn't have a neck joint, you could put it in and make a really creepy looking robot. So there is that if you want to use it for a reason. The only way to really store it in this mode is you can plug into the mouth, which is meant for the combined mode. But the only other way to store it is the little hole in the feet, like so. So that's where I tend to keep it. I just put it in the feet just to keep it somewhere where I don't lose it. Now for Grimlock himself, let's go ahead and get size comparisons that way with some other well-known Grimlocks. Like animated Grimlock here, who's also a Voyager class, and actually comes off as a bit bulkier almost, especially with his much more cartoony design. And here is the Age of Extinction Silver Knight Grimlock, which is actually the Fall Cybertron Grimlock done up in G1 colors, as you can see. So you see, he's pretty average Voyager side. He's definitely more bulky than this guy here, but not quite as bulky as Anime Grimlock here, although Anime Grimlock might look more bulky, but he doesn't have much of a tail, while this Grimlock does. And that was one of the biggest concerns for a lot of people when we first saw this toy, that tail. Which, to be fair, not nearly as bad as the Fall Cybertron Grimlock tail, where it's like half its body. But still a pretty significant size. However, it is on a hinge, since it does form the legs. So you can get a lot more of the old style sitting upright G1 Grimlock if you want. There we go, like so. You can get very much like him tripoding on it, to where he's actually standing in the upright position like the G1 Grimlock did. But it can still balance out to do the new style T-Rex pose if you prefer. Whichever one you prefer. Now, the aesthetics of this thing is the major kind of point with this figure, as he has some very odd looks. Other than just the tail, for one thing, the back, because of the combiner gimmick, really does kind of mess with the back, and you got the big old crotch plate right there. You got where the head is hidden, all kind of broken up right there. You do have the combiner arm ports just sticking off the back of the legs here. And even on the tail, you can see where the leg ports for the combiner mode is. And the leg is very weirdly proportioned, as it doesn't just temper down, it just has like a big block and then the tail tip sticking out. So it can be very weird looking. And also, for some reason, they give him very, very small claws. I get they didn't want to have to hinge it for the robot mode, so they made them very small so they don't get in the way of the fists. But it just doesn't look good in Dino mode because he has very, very tiny little feet. But other than that, he's a pretty good looking Grimlock. He does have an Autobot decal on the top of his head. As mentioned, the clear plastic is painted gold on the inside. He does have an Autobot symbol down here where the robot chest is. He does get some red paint. He has lots of stickers, and see, these are some of the best stickers I've seen on the Power to Primus figures lately. As they are on there pretty solidly, they don't feel like they're going to come right off, and they are plenty of them. Giving more of that G1 toy detail. And, oh, of course, his eyes are painted red, too. As far as articulation goes, he does have a decent amount. His head does move up and down. His mouth does open pretty wide. The arms are on a single ball joint. There's no posability in the elbows or the fingers. They're just on this ball joint here. The legs are the arms of the robot mode, so they have full posability. Going that far with a ratchet, going outward. They do have a swivel, and you do have double knee joints. So you can have one going that way, you can have one going inward. So you can get some really weird poses if you want, but they are there if you want to use them. Or if you want to use it to kind of collapse the leg in and to kind of hide some of that combiner joint to get more of this look. I don't personally like this, but I've seen some people pose like this, and if that's your preference, that's your thing. And then, of course, the tail is on a ratchet, or two ratchets for being the leg joint, so you can actually pose the tail in like a lot of Grimlocks. I keep almost knocking over my setup here. Sorry about that. Still getting used to a new setup. But yeah, he's a pretty good Dino mode. I do admit his aesthetics are a little off, and I do wish he had more of the cartoon colors. But overall, this definitely fits in as a Dinobot Grimlock, as he's been dubbed. So let's go ahead and get in the robot mode. To transform, it's pretty simple. Go ahead and straighten out the tail. You're going to want to grab the tail tips here and just flip them up like so to help form his feet. Go ahead and straighten out the arms, so you're actually going to want them pointing forward. So that way you don't get in the way of the top transforming here, where you're going to grab the head, just straighten it out, grab it, flip it on back, revealing the tiny little robot Grimlock head, which does make for a pretty humorous look. Next, going to take the chest of the Dinobot, or Dino mode here, just split it open, flip it on back to form his wings. Now, this is kind of an evolution of the Dinobot, the Grimlock transformation from G1, because in the G1 version, you just grab the chest and it slid upward. Here, it comes down to double hinges, which is pretty nice. They come up and peg back together up here, and they also peg in the back here, all together. And then you can finally lower the arms down the ratchets, straighten the legs out, go ahead and split the legs. You don't really have to pull them apart much more. I want to bring the camera up a little more so you can see better. And finally, you're just going to flip the fist out. Now, my left fist on my Grimlock is very tight for whatever reason. But, there we go. For some reason, my right, his left, is a lot tighter than the other fist. I'm not quite sure why. But there you have Power to Prime's Grimlock in his robot mode, if I don't hit the camera. Oh, and you can flatten the wings back out against his arms if you want to get more of that winged look. But yeah, there's him in his robot mode. So now we already have Grimlock in his robot mode, let's go ahead and get comparisons out of the way. Here he is again with the Silver Knight Grimlock, who's also the Foul Cybertron one. And here he is with the animated Grimlock. Oh, once I get his legs not falling all over the place. So you can see things kind of reverse in robot mode. Whereas before, the animated Grimlock was much bigger, or much more bulky looking. You see they're actually about the same size in this mode. While the Fall Cybertron / Silver Knight Grimlock is much taller. Although not nearly as dense as a lot of him is pretty hollow compared to this Grimlock. I mean, he still has some hollow pieces too, but there's definitely some more plastic in this one. So yeah, he is a bit shorter compared to some other choices for as a CHUG Grimlock, as that Silver Knight one was my Classics Generations Grimlock up to this point. And for one more comparison, here he is next to Titans Return Trigger Happy, who is a deluxe. Just to show you, he is still pretty tall, a pretty good sized Voyager. And yeah, in this robot mode, he is very much Grimlock. I mean, that head sculpt right there, just to bring that in and give him a better look, that is very much G1 Grimlock's head sculpt, much like the head sculpt for the Dinobot mode is very much G1 Grimlock as well. Really, the only thing is, he does have the much more of the toy aesthetics. He has the red visor here. He does have the, let's see if I can adjust this better on the lighting, because you really can't see that well, can y'all? Not perfect, but I can probably see a little bit better now. But yeah, he does have the toy sticks with the red visor. He does have the gold clear kind of chest. He does have the stickers on the legs, as well as the stickers on the back of the wings. So he is very much toy Grimlock, but he does still look pretty good. He does have the paint on the shoulders, still got the gold here on the claws, which don't fold up or anything, but they're so small, I guess it doesn't really much matter. And there is some gold on the side of the legs here, some little gold streaks I forgot to mention. And I believe this might be painted red. I'm not quite sure. I'm not 100% on that, but I think this little piece right between the hips is painted red. But yeah, he doesn't really need that much paint to begin with, really. He's a pretty good-looking Grimlock. Only real complaint in this mode is that he really doesn't have any weapons. As mentioned before, his only accessories are the Enigma and the little feet pieces, which they always show off as, you know, pegging these onto his arms and using these as his weapons. Which I guess technically give him some giant claw weapons, but yeah, they're not really that long, they're not really that useful, and they look kind of dumb. The only thing I really see these being used for is if you flip them around, you can kind of pretend they're arm cannons or gauntlets for him. But even that, still kind of dumb if I'm being honest. And especially since Voyager Starscream actually does come with his seeker guns, and they can even combine with the feet, which don't look quite as good, but at least he came with something. I feel like he should at least came with a sword or a gun. Like if he can only get one weapon, that would have still been better than the nothing he came with. But he still does look pretty good. I mean, the articulation is also really good. His head does swivel back and forth, but it can also look up and down slightly. It can look up very slightly, not much, but just enough to say he's looking up. His arms are on a ratchet, as you can hear. They do go outward that far, and you can see they even kind of try to use a little piece to kind of fill it in. You do get a swivel. You do get a double elbow, and you do have a backwards elbow if you want to use it. Nothing at the hands, unfortunately. The waist does swivel, but the combiner kibble can get in the way a little bit, but you can use the waist swivel to a certain degree. The hips are soft ratcheted, and you can go forward and backwards, and they're ratcheted both ways, and go sideways. You do get a swivel at the leg, a slightly less soft ratchet at the knee, which goes 90 degrees, and nothing at the feet. But they are sculpted where you can have them either close together or a bit further apart without him losing his balance. He still has a pretty good balance thanks to those tails pieces. And that's the other thing. I do like how they handled his kind of evolution of his G1 transformation as. It definitely is still a G1, but I think the chest holds a bit better as my anime Grimlock, who uses the slide-up idea, kind of has trouble keeping it slid up, plus allows his waist to actually be a bit more thick instead of just a tiny little thin piece. As well as the tail pieces, not only are they no longer hanging off the sides here, but they actually become part of the legs by becoming the heels, and give them much more better balance, which is pretty nice. Even the wings and all this back here is a lot more compact compared to other Grimlocks I've seen, and I enjoy it very much. As far as like a Classics Generations University kind of Grimlock, I do think this is a definitive one. I do still think he should have came with some accessories, and he could have probably done with some better transformation, especially in a little bit better of a dino mode, but he's still a very, very good Grimlock. And I honestly, if you're just trying to get a Grimlock out there that's Voyager scale and fits in well with your Classics or Generations figures, this is worth picking up. However, we're not done with this figure. There's still one more thing he can do, and that's his transformation to Volcanicus's torso. Yep, that's the name of the Dinobot combiner, is Volcanicus. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. It's pretty simple. You're going to start by grabbing the Dinobot, or Grimlock's dino head, flipping it back up and pulling it forward like so. Kind of giving, reminding me of a certain other dino. Maybe thinking of the Red Tyrannosaurus Rex from Mega Power Rangers. But then you're going to come back here. Go ahead and grab the crotch plate for the combine mode. And it does unfold out, but it's a very tight hinge right here for whatever reason. Fold it down. You're going to use the waist swivel to flip it around forward like so. Then what I do is I click the hips out 2 places. I swivel the legs and click the knees down 2 places. And that seems to give you that kind of leg formation they want you to do. Then you're going to grab the entire upper torso, grab the red part of the bottom torso, and just split it. It'll come out on a double hinge. And these clips will fit into these 2 holes that you've been seeing this whole time in Grimlock's chest. They'll peg together like that. Next, you're going to take Grimlock's arms, go ahead and flip away his hands, like so. Bring the shoulder out this far, then grab the arm, turn it, and use the double elbow to collapse it in. And there's a little tab and a little tab hole right here, right below where the elbow joint is, like that, and that should click together. Do the same over here. Go ahead and bring the arm as far out as you can, twist it, and collapse in the double elbow to where the combiner connectors are sticking out. Then the wings, or the shell of the chest for the dino, do have a tab hole. There's a tab sticking out of the shoulder right there. So they do kind of lock together to form a full completed chest. Then finally you're going to come back here to right behind the dino neck. Open up the gray part. You're going to also flip open the red part. That'll give clearance for the head for the combined mode to come out. Then flip the red part back in like so. And there you have Volcanicus's torso. And to be honest, a lot of people don't really like this, but I think it looks pretty good. It could be a lot better, don't get me wrong, it could be a lot better. I don't particularly think this looks too good where you have the hollow bits from where it transforms just sticking out right there. There's a huge gap right here in the torso where you have like really wide top part, very, very thin waist, and then you get wide hips, like somewhat wide hips again. And there have been some people who've already kind of fixed this. I do personally kind of like taking the legs and just using the front of Grimlock's legs instead. Especially since he can kind of actually stand on his own like this, which I'll leave for the rest of the review. But even the basic mode, I mean, this is very much like Combiner Wars Minosaur-esque. But even that doesn't look too bad to me. I mean, at least it's using a different part of Grimlock's leg to kind of give it a different look. And the only thing I really have complained, like I mentioned, the only thing I really complain about is I do think the waist is way too thin. But I guess it does still give him the waist swivel. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I'm not done with the transformation. You can also take Grimlock's head, flip it forward, open the mouth where that little tab hole is. And let's see. Take the Enigma of combination here. And you can peg that into the mouth there to kind of give it like his combiner spark, I guess. I don't know. I think it looks pretty dumb, especially meaning it's going to have just a dino head sticking out that far with a little thing in its mouth, but you can do it. I think this would look fine if it had like pegged in like right here or something, like almost like a belt loop. But yeah, I do kind of prefer just leaving it like that. And don't get me wrong, I don't think the Enigma looks bad at all. It looks better on. I just think like how Starscream handles it looks a little bit better. But taking a close look at that head sculpt, it does kind of go with that aspect of like Grimlock's head, but much meaner looking. As it does still have the red visor and the mouth plate, but then you have like this little silver chin strap and almost like a, not quite a crown, but like a half crown for Grimlock. It looks like he's a king dinosaur or Dinobot. So yeah, I do like the overall aesthetics. It's very much like if there was going to be a Dinobot combiner, this is about how I would expect it to look, to be honest. It very much does still scream Dinobot without being completely just Grimlock like some of the third-party ones I've seen. So yeah, overall, I think this figure is pretty good. The Dino mode has its flaws, but I think it's still pretty nice. The Robot mode's excellent, it just needs some weapons, to be honest. And even the Torso mode for the Combiner is decent. We've definitely seen worse torsos out of Combiner Wars. Minnesota. So, overall, I do highly recommend this figure for whatever reasons you're searching it for. If you have any kind of qualms about it, it's a good figure. Not an amazing figure, but it's a good figure. So, this has been Nerd Transformed. I hope you enjoyed if I can speak. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.